I've seen cancer disappear. I've seen metal plates dissolve. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me he can't do it. 'Cause I've seen real life resurrection. I've seen mental health restored. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me he can't do it. 'Cause I've seen families reunited. I've seen prodigals return. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me he can't do it. 'Cause I've seen troubled souls delivered. I've seen addicts finally free. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell. I've seen cancer disappear. I've seen cancer disappear. I've seen metal plates dissolve. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me he can't do it. 'Cause I've seen real life resurrection. I've seen mental health restored. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me he can't do it. And I've seen families reunited. I've seen prodigals return. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me there's deliverance. I've seen troubled souls delivered. I've seen addicts finally free. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me he can't do it. We'll see cities in revival. It's salvation for the streets. Don't you tell me he can't do it. Don't you tell me he can't do it. We'll see glory fill the nations as the world has never seen. Don't you tell me he can't do it. 'Cause I know that he can. I believe we're the ones who work in God. We're the ones who work in God. All the miracles I've seen, too good to not believe. We're the ones who work in God. And you heal because you love. All the miracles we'll see, you're too good, I believe it. You're the ones who work in God. You're the ones who work in God. All the miracles I see, too good to not. 'Cause you are the wonder worker. You heal because you love. All the miracles we'll see, you're too good to not believe. Too good to not believe. To say, too good to not believe. After everything I've seen, you're too good to not believe. Too good to not believe. Too good to not believe. I believe it. After everything I've seen, I believe it. Too good to not. 'Cause my eyes didn't lie to me. When I saw this precious girl receive arches in her feet. And my eyes didn't lie to me when I saw that metal plate dissolve from that man's leg. And my eyes don't hear, they don't lie, my ears don't lie. When we hear of resurrection power of that precious boy who we sung over, this precious girl sung over, and this boy comes back to life. He was breathless, now he's back to life. He's living, he's breathing because of resurrection power. There's nothing that our God can't do. No, there's nothing that our God Have you ever seen the wonder in the glimmer at first sight? As the eyes begin to open and the blindness meets the light. If you have soul, sing. I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in light, bursting in living color. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. Have you ever seen the wonder in the air of second life? Having come out of the waters with the old one left behind. If you have soul, sing. I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in light, bursting in living color. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. I see the world in grace. I see the world in gospel. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. I'm walking in the wonder. You're the wonder in the wild. Turning wilderness to wonder. If you have soul, say. I see the world in love. I see the world in freedom. I see the Jesus way. You're the wonder in the wild. You're the wonder in the wild. Turning wilderness to wonder. I see the world your way, and I'm not afraid.
Good morning, Gracewood. If you would please stand with us as we sing this morning. If you're joining us online, welcome. Glad to have you here.
I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures that fail, I never know. Then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. And I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing,
glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Come on, sing it again. There's nothing. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Come on, sing together. You turn graves into gardens. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. And you turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Yeah, you're the only one who So come and consume me. My heart is ready. God, if I burn, I'll burn for you. With no hesitation, without reservation. God, if I burn, I'll burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I wanna burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I wanna burn for you. Oh. Breath that I'm breathing, each moment I'm giving. God, if I live for you. Oh. And I love your presence, you're my obsession. God, if I live for you. Oh. And God, if I live for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I'm gonna burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I'm gonna burn for burn for you. Oh, I'm gonna sing light a match. So light a match, let it go, set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire, I want that fire. Light a match, let it go, set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire, I want that fire. Light a match and let it go, set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire, I want that fire. Light a match and let it go, set ablaze, so uncontrolled. I want that fire, 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 I want that fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I'm gonna burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I'm gonna burn for you. Burn for you, burn for you, yeah. Come on, sing, light a match. So light a match and let it go, set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire, I want that fire. Light a match and let it go, set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire, I want, come on, sing it out, light a match. And light a match, let it go, set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire, I want that, oh, light a match. And light a match, and let it go, set ablaze, so uncontrolled. I want that fire, I want that fire, I want it, I want that fire, I want that fire, I want that fire, I want that fire. Though the music changes and the songs we sing, we still lift our praises to our loving God and King. Though the music changes and the songs we sing, we still lift our praises to our loving God and King. Though the seasons change, your love remains, your love remains. Though the seasons change, your love remains, your love remains. been faithful to plant the seed, and you will be faithful to always send your rain. Lord, you've been faithful to plant the seed, and you will be faithful to always send your rain. Oh, though the seasons change, your love remains, your love remains. Though the seasons change, your love remains, your love remains. Yes, your love remains. Yes, your love remains. It's always the same. Oh Lord, you will never change. Oh Lord, you will never change. No, no, no. So when we were far apart, you came running with open arms. When we were far apart, you came running with open arms. You never give up, you never get up. When we were far apart, you came running with open arms. Oh, when we were far apart, yeah, well, you came running with open arms. Sing, though the seasons change, though the seasons change, your love remains, your love remains. Though the seasons change, oh, your love remains, your love remains. And though the seasons change, your love remains. Yes, your love remains. And though the seasons change, your love remains. Your love remains.
God, we rest in that truth this morning. That as things around us change constantly out of our control, God, you stay the same. Your love is constant, your love is faithful, your love is true, no matter what we see in our worlds and our circumstances. We are so grateful for that. Thank you for the way that you love us, Lord. We pray in your name.
Well, hey everybody, and welcome to Gracewood Community Church as we continue our series called Summer at Gracewood. We're going to be talking about greatness and influence today. But before we get into today's message, got a few announcements for you. First off, we're going to be having our Gracewood Kids Volunteer Training Day, and that's going to be on Thursday, July the 29th. It'll be from 7 to 8 p.m., so an hour. And so if you have helped in Gracewood Kids, or you're currently helping or would like to help, and you want to continue to do that, we would love for you to do that. And and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we work through our message today about how God has called us to serve other people, and that's a place where we would love to have you help out and volunteer. And so you can sign up for that out at the Welcome Center, and we'll get you plugged in. You can also sign up on the Next Steps card that's in the back of the seat in front of you, the green card, and you can turn it in the offering as you walk out, or take it by the Welcome Center, and we'd love to have you be part of that. So important as we're trying to go from just doing the 11 o'clock service to doing both services for our kids, and it'll open up opportunities for people to come and be part of our services. Also, we're going to have a summer meetup today at 2:30. We're going to all meet out at the Pinnacle Area Preserve, and we're going to take a little hike, so bring a snack, bring you some water, and we'll just walk out there together. So at 2:30, meet at the Pinnacle Area Preserve, and we'll go on a little hike together and enjoy time of friendship, fellowship, and conversation as we hike. Also, Summer Blast is coming up. That's going to be on August the 4th. That'll be from 11:30 to 6 p.m. At about 5:30, we'll have our closing session, and we'd like to welcome whoever would like to come be part of that closing session. Then we'll eat dinner together at 6 o'clock. So you can register on the Gracewood app. You can register your kids there. You can also sign up to volunteer for that on the app as well, or online. You can also do that out at the Welcome Center, and we'd love to have you help make that a special day for our kids. And then lastly, but not least, of course, the Elk Garden Food Pantry. We want to continue to help out folks in our area who may not have food or other items that they're in need of. And so if you would like to make those donations, as you go out of the two main doors there, you'll see kind of a wooden bin in front of you, and it's got food pantry on there, and it gives you the ideas on which days of the week or which weeks out of the month that you can bring certain items, and we'd love for that. Justin was able to take the youth down to the Elk Garden Food Pantry this week, and one of the things that they did ask for was toilet paper and laundry detergent. They only had 12 rolls of toilet paper in the whole place because people need that so much, and they're given one roll per family for an entire month. And so, as you know, that may not do the job, okay? And so if you're thinking about it, please bring some toilet paper, even laundry detergent, not the big ones necessarily, but, like the 32 rounds, that would be wonderful. And so thank you guys for your continued donations to that, and we want to continue to keep that out in front of you, all right? But today, like I said, we're going to continue our series, Summer at Gracewood, and we're talking about greatness over these next few weeks. And so a question that we a lot of times ask will say, who is the greatest of all time? Who is the greatest, right? And so we ask this, maybe it's football, who's the greatest football player? Is it Tom Brady? Is it Peyton Manning? Is it, maybe you like your receiver, Jerry Rice, it could be Jim Brown, in baseball. You got Ken Griffey Jr., you got Babe Ruth, you got Willie Mays, you got Ted Williams, these are all great players. Who's the greatest out of them? In basketball, you got Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And so you got to figure out who is the greatest? Who is the greatest? And of course, we ask this about a lot of different things. But we can never come to a unanimous decision because greatness is completely subjective. It really is. What's the standard for greatness? Who sets the standard? Do we just adjust when things change? I don't know. Our culture tends to attach things to greatness like wealth and power and status and achievement and notoriety, none of which are negative things, but are those really the benchmarks for greatness? Are those really the benchmarks? As we read the Word of God, none of these things make the list for Jesus. None of them. So what is it? Because all of us want to be great. Nobody says, look, I just really don't care if my life is great or not. Nobody does that. Nobody says, hey, I'm striving to be mediocre at best. We don't say those types of things. No, we want purpose, right? We want to be part of something that has meaning. We want to make an impact in our lives and in the lives of people around us. We want to be great. Those desires, those are good things. God has wired that into us, but if you're anything like me, there are times when I've let my definition of greatness get skewed. I end up letting the world define it for me. And if we adopt the world's definition of greatness, almost all the time, that runs in stark contrast to the way that Jesus describes it. So here's what I've seen Jesus model for us. Greatness is others focused. Greatness is others focused. There's nothing great about an inward focused life. Nothing, okay? It doesn't matter how talented somebody is. It doesn't matter how much they've achieved or how much notoriety they have. An inward focus is not greatness. It's narcissism, okay? Greatness is always others focused, always. So Jesus is going to give us an example of what greatness really is and how that actually plays out. But he's not going to do it through some huge display of talent or skill or in some kind of flash, okay? He's going to do it doing something that runs completely counterintuitive to what we might think. It's something that we may not even expect, right? So if you got your Bibles with you, maybe a Bible app, go ahead and open those up to John chapter 13. John chapter 13, that's where we'll be today. And so here's the context. And this might be the most intimate scene in all of Jesus' ministry. This is what's commonly known as the Last Supper. Last Supper. And that sounds really ominous, and it was, okay? Because this was just a few hours away from when Jesus would be betrayed, he'd be falsely accused, he'd be beaten, and then brutally crucified. And he knows all of this. He knows what's coming, which means he also knows this is his last chance to spend time with the 12 disciples. It's the last chance he's going to have to invest in these guys that he's been pouring into for 3 years. Listen, you and I would not be sitting here today in this church if these 12 or 11 don't take on Jesus' ministry, okay? So needless to say, there's a lot riding on this dinner. He's got one more shot. He's got to drive home the message and the mission that he wants for them. And I kind of look at it, and maybe this is a rough analogy. It's kind of like a coach's speech right before the big game, you know? That's kind of what we're walking into. And as the coach on the movie Hoosiers would put it, as he speaks to his team just before they take the court and play that state championship game, he looks around the locker room and he's got his team there and he says, "We're way past the big speeches. We're way past big speech time. No more talk, no more game planning. It's go time. It's go time. It's time to show them." And that's the spot that Jesus is in. No more talk. It's time to show them. So look at John chapter 13, verses 1 through 5. It says this: Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave the world and would return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, he took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want anybody touching my feet, right? And I certainly don't want to wash anybody else's feet, okay? But that's what Jesus is doing. And here's why this is a really big deal. There are two things about it: symbolism and application. All right, symbolism and application. First, we got symbolism. Jesus is walking into first century Palestine. And so why would you actually do this back then? Well, there was no such thing as closed-toed shoes, and you walked everywhere you went. So you were wearing sandals, walking through the dirt. On top of that, they weren't cleaning up all the presents that the animals would leave behind on the dirt roads, if you catch my drift. You know, are you smelling what I'm stepping in here? Okay. Now, how do you think your feet would be at the end of the day? Yeah, pretty raunchy, right? Pretty horrible. That's what these people's feet would have been like at dinner. And at dinner, you wouldn't go to a table like we do and go and sit down in a chair. Their tables were really low to the ground, and then you would have pillows and cushions all over the floor. And what you would do is you would kind of lay on your side, and you would kind of rest yourself on your elbow with your shoulder up close to the table, and then you would eat with your right hand. That's how you would do it, so that your feet would be, the dirtiest part of your body would be away from the food. And what the custom was at that time was for the lowest ranking servant or slave in the house to go around and wash the feet of every person that came to dinner. It was a disgusting job. It was disgusting. It was a humiliating job. It was a job that nobody wanted but Jesus. Nobody prompted him to do it. Nobody asked him to do it. He just gets up and he does it. And this is borderline offensive. The disciples were looking around like, is he really doing this? You could have heard a pin drop. It kind of freaks Peter out. He didn't know how to handle it. And in verse 6, it says this. He says, when Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? And then on in verse 7, Jesus replied, you don't understand now what I am doing, but someday you're going to understand it. I'm kind of with Peter on this one. Why is Jesus doing this? Jesus is the Son of God. This is something that is so far beneath the Son of God. He's doing something that is literally reserved for the lowest people in society, but Jesus does it anyway. He does it anyway. And he does it for two really important reasons, symbolism and application. First, Jesus washing the nastiness off the feet of his disciples, it's just a glimpse of what God can do for us on the cross. He's saying, hey guys, I'm washing the dirtiest parts of your body with water, but in just a little while, when I go to the cross, my blood is going to wash the dirtiest parts of your sin. And here's what that means for us. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter where you've been, what you've been through, or what's been done to you. The cross of Jesus Christ can cleanse the dirtiest and darkest things about you. Jesus says, I can clean you. I will clean you. I want to clean you. And you might say, but I'm a liar. I'm not an honest person. I don't have integrity. Clean. But I've done this sexually. And I've been stuck in this addiction that seems like for eternity. Clean. I'm worthless. Listen, no, you're not. You're clean by the blood of Jesus. I'm just a really insecure person, so I talk about people behind their backs, and it's a lot easier for me to feel better about myself when I tear somebody else apart, or I just cover up my insecurity with arrogance. Clean. But I've been a terrible spouse, or a terrible father, a terrible mother. I've done and said some things, or I haven't done and I haven't said some things that I can't get back. He says, you're clean. It doesn't matter what you've done. Jesus looks at you from the position of sacrificing himself on the cross, and he says, you're clean. But the only thing that would have kept the disciples' feet dirty is if they wouldn't have let him clean them. Peter tried. In verse 8, it says this, no, Peter protested, you will never, ever wash my feet. And that translates to this, look, Jesus, I've got this on my own. I can take care of myself. I can clean up my own life. Or, I don't really think you can clean me. Because once you get to know me, once you get close enough to me and see how I really am, how much you've actually got to do and how much needs to be cleaned, you're not going to be able to do it. But I appreciate the gesture. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been there. No, Jesus, I'm good. I can take care of this mess myself. I can clean up my own life. But all I'm doing is acting like I'm a 3-year-old kid whenever I make a mess in the kitchen and I try to clean it up myself. But look, they can't clean it up. They're not cleaning it up. They're just making a bigger mess. That's what I'm doing when I try to clean up my own sin. Or, no, Jesus, you really can't clean me, because if you know who I really am, if you knew what I had done, if you've known where I've been, man, you know that I've gone too far. You can't clean this. I really appreciate it and thank you for the gesture, but you can't. But then Jesus says in the last part of verse 8, unless I wash you, you won't belong to me. He's saying you can't clean up the mess of your own sin. You can't do it, all right? And he's saying, yes, I can do it. Not only do I know everything, I know the dirtiest and darkest things about you. I actually know some things that you don't even know about yourself. But guess what? I still want you, and I still want to clean you. If you would just let me. The only thing that will keep Jesus from removing our sin and cleaning everything about our past, our present, and our future is if we don't let him do that. But here's the good news. That offer to be cleansed is available right here, right now, for every single one of us. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what happened last night. Now the question is, are we going to accept it or are we not? That's the symbolism in Jesus washing the disciples' feet. What about the application? Okay, what about the application? What does that say about Jesus? So here's a great personal application question, and it could be daily that this happens to you, or it could be once or twice. But all of us will be the most influential person in the room at some point. Maybe that's a boardroom, maybe it could be a breakfast table, maybe it's a coffee shop, maybe it's a conference. But here's the question. When you are the most influential person in the room, what will you do with it? What will you do with it? What will you do with whatever measure of influence that you have? And all of us have a certain measure of influence. What will you do with it? That's what will determine greatness. If your version of greatness is about you, and it's about your place in history, you're just going to end up hurting a lot of people. Greatness always has to be others focused, always. And here's where I think we can get a little bit sidetracked. I think a lot of times we tend to confuse authority and influence. We think they're the same thing. You're like, hey, certainly someone in a position of authority can have a lot of influence. And that's absolutely true. But authority and influence are two different things. So let me break it down this way, okay? Authority is I have to follow you. All right, that's authority. Influence is I want to follow you. It's different. And I think you can see the difference here. Jesus is the Son of God. He has all of the authority in the world. There is nobody in a higher position of authority than Jesus Christ. But in John chapter 13, when he's washing the disciples' feet, when he's lowering himself to serve those guys like that, what do you think the disciples' motivation to follow Jesus was? Was it his authority or was it his influence? I think this is influence. Because the starting point of greatness is letting go of everything that you have, who you are and what you have for somebody else. I mean, think about it. Who would you rather follow? The person who lords their authority over you? I mean, they don't miss an opportunity to remind you that they're in charge, okay? Or would you rather follow the person who willingly lets go of who they are and what they have for other people and for you? Jesus is doing just that. And then we're going to unpack it a little bit more in verses 12 through 15 where it says this. After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I've given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you." The disciples' motivation to follow Jesus is his influence, all right? But what was Jesus' motivation to actually do this? The example that Jesus is setting here in John chapter 13 is he's not talking about a one-time event. He's talking about doing this for the long haul, all right? Jesus, throughout his entire life, lowered himself for other people over and over and over again. How does he do that? I have a hard enough time lowering myself once, let alone on a continual basis. Like how does Jesus lower himself like this for the long haul? It seems kind of daunting, doesn't it? Well, if you go back to John chapter 13, verse 3, it actually gave us a little bit of insight. Here's how Jesus did it. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything and that he had come from God and would return to God. Jesus had the right fuel and the right focus. The right fuel was humility and identity. And here's what I mean. Greatness is others focused. It's about outward focus, all right? Not inward focus. And that has to start with our identity. And Jesus knew what God had done. He knew what God had promised. He knew where he came from and he knew where he was going. He knew that his identity was set and it was secure in God. It wasn't wrapped up in what people thought about him. It wasn't wrapped up in his performance. It wasn't in some level of prestige because his identity was set in God. And that's the reason why he was able to act in a way that other people thought was crazy and that cost him his dignity. And maybe that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of losing our dignity because somewhere down the road, we attach greatness to dignity. You know, I don't want to lose that because that might chip away at the identity that I've constructed for myself. I don't want to put myself in a spot where I'm going to have to clean the proverbial junk off of somebody's feet. That's not dignified at all. Dignity has never been attached to greatness, ever. Greatness is about letting go of who you are and what you have, including your dignity for somebody else. Remember what 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6 says. So humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time, He will lift you up in honor. Like knowing that God will lift me up at the right time, that encourages me. I don't know when that is, but if I lower myself, if I humble myself at the right time, God will lift me up. The only way that you can know that, the only way that you can trust that is if your identity is in Jesus Christ alone. If our identity is in any other thing, any other person than Jesus, whether that's someone or something, we're not going to be able, to make the distance. We're not going to be able to go the distance and be in it for the long haul. So what is it that our eyes are fixed on as we pursue greatness? It could be any number of things. But during the Last Supper with the disciples, there are two things that came up. So in the Gospel of Luke talks about this moment really right before Jesus starts washing the guy's feet. And Luke says that there was this argument that had broke out among the disciples. And they were arguing about the greatest of all time. And look, they were not arguing about LeBron versus Jordan, okay? They were arguing about who is the greatest among themselves. And on top of that, two of the guys say to their mom, hey, Mom, ask Jesus if we can sit next to him when he's on his throne. And here's a side note for you. You are never the greatest at anything if you have your mom asking questions that you're too afraid to ask, okay? You got to leave your mom out of it, okay? You're just not great if that's what you do. But this is what they're fighting over, okay? They're fighting over a throne. They're arguing about who gets to be by the throne, next to the throne, who deserves it, who's earned it, who's got the talents, right? And in the middle of the disciples bickering, Jesus just stands up and he grabs a towel. He stands up and he grabs a towel. Now, we can find ourselves doing the same thing the disciples did. They focused on the wrong target. Maybe that's a platform. Maybe that's a certain level of success. Maybe it's some kind of notoriety for you. Maybe it's a certain achievement that you want to achieve. You know, if I have this attached to my name, if I have this many followers, if people know my name, then I'm great. If that's our focus when we pursue greatness, then we're going to be much more willing, not necessarily to lower ourselves, but we're going to be much more willing to lower other people below us. So why do you think the disciples are fighting with each other? They're tearing each other apart because now, if they can tear somebody apart, that's one less person that they got to climb over to get to the throne. Often, we're willing to fight for a throne, but nobody really wants to grab a towel. So in the middle of all this argument going on about greatness, Jesus stands up. He doesn't say a word, and he grabs a towel. He's demonstrating that greatness is not wrapped up in a throne or a particular platform that we're looking for. It's also not wrapped up in talents either. Look, this is his chance to be in the spotlight. All right, this is his time when Jesus should be running out of the tunnel into the stadium, all right? It's his time to show off his talents. It's time for him to flex and we would expect fireworks, wouldn't we? We would expect something great, but he does something completely different. In that moment, it wasn't his talent and it wasn't his throne that made him great. What made him great was the towel in his hand. I want you to get this. Greatness is about the willingness to grab a towel. It's about the willingness to grab a towel. Jesus is the most influential person in the room, and he doesn't use his talents or prop himself up. He uses a towel to serve other people. And not only serve, but he serves people that won't serve him back, right? I mean, think about who's in the room. He's washing Judas's feet, the guy who's about to betray him in an hour or so. Jesus knows that. He knows that the disciples can't pay him back for what he's about to do. He knows that he'll be betrayed by one, he'll be denied by another, and he'll be deserted by all of them. Yet he still serves them anyway. There was a pastor and theologian in England named John Bunyan, and he said this: "You have not lived until you have done something for someone who can never repay you." Never. And that's why people feel so alive. That's why they feel so alive when they come back from a mission trip. Those people are never going to be able to repay you. They'll probably never see you again. That's why so many of us have gotten to experience that level of joy when we're able to serve others in places like Honduras. But it's true even with the children in our own community, in our own church. You know, I think about the people that serve here on Sundays with the big smiles on their faces. You know, they're the people that make you feel like, you know, like they're glad to see you when you come in. They're serving with no expectation of getting anything in return. Anything. Doing something for someone who can do something for you in return, that's not serving. That's being opportunistic, right? Doing something for someone when they can't do anything in return, that's serving. Jesus was focused on serving, and specifically serving those who wouldn't serve him back. That's the greatness that Jesus demonstrates. And he's going to close out with one more thing. He says this in John chapter 13, verse 17. "Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them." For doing them. So it's not enough just to know what Jesus said and did if we want to be great. You've got to act on it. Now, I can have incredible knowledge. I can know the Bible inside and out, so I could know everything that Jesus said and did. I could be able to explain complex doctrine, but if that's all I've got, I don't really have anything, right? Knowledge is fantastic. It's really a gift. It's something that the church absolutely should pursue. But if I stop there with knowledge, if I don't allow God to transform my mind and to transform and penetrate my heart, then I've missed the point. Knowledge isn't belief, but practicing it shows the belief that you have. So what we actually believe will manifest itself in what we do and how we live. And this is what Jesus is trying to drive home. He's saying, you know, what are you doing with the influence that you have? The things that I've modeled for you, the things that I've taught you, the things that you know. What are you doing with those things? If we believe in Jesus, our response is always to act, okay? Always. If we do what Jesus modeled, if we take what he taught and we put it into practice, if we let go of who we are and what we have for other people, if we pick up a towel, Jesus says that belief will always lead and be met with blessing. So are we, those of us who call ourselves Christians, are we known for just a bunch of religious talk, or are we known for belief that gets put into action? Are we known for letting go of who we are and what we have? Are we known for grabbing a towel? Is that what we're known for? Because this is what the world needs from us, okay? The world needs to see us doing and modeling what Jesus modeled. The world needs to see us humbling ourselves and letting go of who we are and what we have for somebody else. The world needs to see us pick up a towel and then pick up a towel again and pick it up again. The world needs to see us demonstrate the greatness that God displayed. They're hungry for it. Remember this, people are not looking for an explanation of greatness. They're looking for a demonstration of it. Greatness is about the willingness to grab a towel. The disciples are arguing about who and what is great. So Jesus doesn't tell them in that moment what that is. He doesn't stand up and he doesn't preach a sermon. He just gets up and he shows them what greatness is. Our culture is constantly arguing about who and what is great. It's time for you and I, as followers of Jesus, to stand up and not just tell them, but to stand up and show them. Our community needs a demonstration of greatness. Your spouse and kids need that demonstration. Your friends need that demonstration. Your office workers and neighbors need that demonstration. Greatness is the husband who serves his wife in front of his kids over and over and over again. Greatness is the volunteer who gives of themselves in the kids' ministry, knowing they'll never get anything from those kids. We could go on and on and on about what greatness is in relationship to Jesus Christ, but we need to be looking for chances to be great. Look for chances to grab a towel. Let's just not tell people about it. Let's actually show them. Let's be the church and not just talk about it, but we need to demonstrate what Jesus demonstrated. People are looking for someone to humble themselves. And we live in a world that says, you've got to portray pride, you've got to portray strength, you've got it all together, but really it's just a facade. It's fake. Deep down, everyone wants to see somebody take a step in humility. People are hungry. People are hungry and they're waiting for somebody to set the example. And this is where I believe we need to step up as a church. And we need to teach our kids. We need to volunteer in our kids' ministry and teach them and care for them in ways that they never dreamed could happen. That's why we need to volunteer in our community and step up and reach out to others who are in need. And listen, if you're the most influential person in the room, grab a towel. If you're not the most influential person in the room, grab a towel. Then you will be the most influential person in the room. Just imagine what our church would look like if all of us grabbed a towel. How many people could we serve? How many barriers could we remove? How many people could we introduce to Jesus Christ? How many people could we help grow in their relationship with Jesus? I mean, it's endless, isn't it? Think about our community. Imagine what our community would look like if we all just grabbed a towel and started serving other people. Imagine what serving the least of these would look like so that it transforms our community. Imagine serving somebody in a way that helps get their life back on track. And now, maybe you got to be part of helping somebody break the cycle of poverty that's been generational in their family. Imagine serving kids that everybody else has just written off and helping them get on the path to make something out of themselves so that they flourish instead of being on the path to crime. Imagine serving in a way that nobody else wants to serve and nobody else is even talking about in our community. But it grabs the attention of the skeptic, of the critic, and the antagonist to the point where they drop their skepticism and they look at you and they just say, hey, why would you serve somebody like that? You know, I long for the day when our community asks us that question. Greatness. It's about the willingness to grab a towel. And Jesus says, John chapter 13, verse 17, we talked about it a minute ago. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. Let's be a church that grabs a towel and fills in where we need to. Hey, look, there's a next steps card in the back of the seat in front of you. If God's moved you in a way that you want to jump in there, fill that out. We'll get in touch with you and we'll get you plugged into a place where you can serve God in a way that we will see people come to know Christ. Would you pray with me today? Lord, we thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to come together, to be able to hear your word, to be able to worship you, and also to be challenged. God, we don't want to stay right where we are in comfort and in doing things the same way all the time and just, going through life, trying to be a good person and just kind of halfway doing it. God, we want to be bold. We want to make a difference. We want to be great. So God, help us to find ways to show people that we love them, to show people that we care for them, to show people the grace that you give. We want to model what you've modeled. We want to do what you've done. Thank you for the example that you give us. It's pretty clear. And God, thank you for your grace and how you show us that even though the disciples were bickering and arguing over who was the greatest, you still love them. You still allowed them to be part of the greatest plan that's ever been, to fulfill your purpose for your honor and for your glory. And God, we fail so often, and we get caught up in shooting with the wrong targets, and we get caught up in trying to figure out what greatness is in the eyes of the world and not what greatness is in your eyes. And I pray that we would live here on this earth as foreigners, that we would realize that this is not our home, but we have a permanent home in heaven with you. And I believe that if we have that mindset, it will transform the way we think, it will transform the way we act, and it will transform the lives of the people that are around us. God, help us to focus on you. Help us to fix our eyes on you so that our identity is found in you. And when our identity is found in you, we don't get so caught up in the things of this world, but we're able to stay on mission. We're able to have a purpose, and we're able to live it out for your glory. God, you are a great God. We love you and we praise you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. And everybody said,
come and consume me. My heart is ready. God, if I burn, I'll burn for you. With no hesitation, without reservation. God, if I burn, I'll burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I want to burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I want to burn for you. That I'm breathing, each moment I'm giving. God, if I live for you. Oh, and I love your presence. You're my obsession. God, if I live for you. God, if I live for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I'm gonna burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I'm gonna burn for you. It's great to see all you guys this morning. You go and have a wonderful week. We hope to see you back here next week. Go and live what you've been taught. So light a match, let it go. Set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire. I want that fire. So light a match, let it go. Set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire. I want that fire. Light a match, let it go. Set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire. I want that fire. So light a match and let it go. Set ablaze, uncontrolled. I want that fire. 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 Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I want to burn for you. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. Give me a fresh, fresh fire. I want what you desire. I'm gonna burn